January 26, 2026. It's the social physician on my 12 destroyers, 4 supercarriers, 290 Tomahawk missiles loaded and ready. And at precisely 3:04 a.m. Tehran time, the United States launched the largest military operation in the Middle East since 2003. Targets across Iran exploded simultaneously. Air defense radars went blind. Underground facilities collapsed. And Tehran's supreme leader made a promise on state television that echoed across the region. Every American soldier on our soil will return home in a coffin. Welcome to the war nobody wanted but everyone saw coming. 72 hours earlier, the tension reached a breaking point. Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces seized a British-flagged tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. Standard intimidation tactics. But this time, 3 American contractors were aboard. Washington issued an ultimatum. Release the vessel and crew within 48 hours, or face consequences. Tehran refused. Instead, they doubled down. Military convoys rolled toward the coast. Missile batteries activated. Fighter jets dispersed to hardened shelters. Iran's message was unmistakable. We don't take orders from Washington. The White House convened an emergency session. Military options that had gathered dust for years suddenly became active plans. Operation Crimson Thunder, the code name for a scenario planners hoped would never leave the simulation rooms. Within 18 hours, the machinery of war began moving. The USS Abraham Lincoln Battle Group, already stationed in the Arabian Sea, received orders to proceed north at flank speed, 33 knots. Burning through fuel at 8,000 gallons per hour. Behind her came the USS Carl Vinson from the Pacific, the USS John C. Stennis diverted from scheduled exercises, and the USS Ronald Reagan broke off from a port visit in Singapore. 4 floating cities of destruction converging on one target. If this kind of military breakdown is what you're looking for, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and join over 1 million viewers who count on us for tactical analysis. Iran's military planners weren't surprised. They'd watched American carriers gather before. Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom. Every major operation followed the same pattern. Ships massed, warnings issued. Then chaos. Their counter-strategy had evolved over 40 years of preparation. The Persian Gulf is shallow. Average depth, just 160 feet. American submarines lose their advantage in these waters. Surface ships become targets. Iran had positioned over 300 fast attack boats along the coast. Speedboats packed with explosives. Larger vessels carrying Chinese-made anti-ship missiles. Their doctrine was simple: swarm and overwhelm. But the swarm needs eyes. And those eyes were about to go dark. The opening salvo came not from ships or planes, but from space. American cyber operations targeted Iran's command networks 47 minutes before the first missile launched. Military communications scrambled. Radar data corrupted. The digital infrastructure that connected Iran's dispersed forces simply stopped functioning. Then the kinetic phase began. Submarine-launched Tomahawks broke the surface of the Arabian Sea at 3:04 a.m. 127 missiles in the first wave alone. Each one programmed with terrain-following algorithms that allowed them to fly at 50 feet above ground level. Invisible to radar. Nearly silent until impact. The targets were surgical. S-300 surface-to-air missile batteries along the coast. Early warning radar installations. Communication nodes linking frontline units to command headquarters. Within 11 minutes, Iran's integrated air defense network suffered catastrophic failure. Not destroyed entirely, but blinded. Death, unable to coordinate. Phase 2 followed immediately. B-1B Lancers from Diego Garcia screamed across Iranian airspace at 900 miles per hour. Their payload wasn't bombs. It was information. Electronic warfare packages that jammed every frequency Iran's military used. Whatever communications survived the cyber attack now drowned in static. And behind the Lancers came the strike packages. F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters crossed the border from bases in Qatar and the UAE. 48 aircraft in the first wave. Their targets were Iran's ballistic missile sites. The Shahab-3 launchers that could reach Israel. The Imad variants that threatened Saudi oil fields. The Sejal missiles capable of hitting American bases across the region. Each fighter carried 2 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs internally. Precision weapons that could hit a target the size of a car window from 40,000 feet. The missiles never launched. Their launchers became craters. What's your take on stealth technology? Type A if you think it's the future of air combat. Type B if you believe advanced radar will eventually defeat it. Comment below. Iran's Air Force attempted to respond. They had assets on paper. 186 operational fighters, according to pre-war estimates. F-14 Tomcats from the Shah's era, still flying after 45 years. Russian MiG-29s acquired in the 1990s. Indigenous designs that borrowed heavily from American aircraft Iran could no longer maintain. The pilots were brave. Many were skilled. But technology creates gaps that courage cannot bridge. The first Iranian interceptor launched from Mehrabad Air Base at 3:23 a.m. An F-14A, radar warning receivers screaming alerts. The pilot never acquired his target. An AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, fired from an F-35 70 miles away, ended the engagement before it began. Over the next 6 hours, Iran lost 71 aircraft. 34 destroyed on the ground by precision strikes. 37 shot down in aerial combat. American losses in the air campaign? 1 F-15E Strike Eagle, mechanical failure, crew ejected safely and recovered by search and rescue. The skies belong to America. This is the detailed tactical content our community craves. If you're finding value, hit that like button. It genuinely helps us reach more viewers. But controlling the sky doesn't win wars. You have to take ground. At dawn on day 2, Marine Expeditionary Units initiated operations along the coast near Bandar Abbas. This wasn't D-Day. No massive beach landings. Instead, helicopters inserted special operations teams at critical infrastructure points, oil terminals, port facilities, communication hubs. The strategy was decapitation without occupation. Seize the nodes that mattered. Demonstrate capability. Create leverage for negotiations. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps wasn't interested in negotiations. They counterattacked with everything available. Artillery barrages targeted suspected American positions. Suicide drones launched in waves. The fast attack boats finally deployed, racing toward American warships in groups of 15 to 20 vessels. The swarm met the shield. USS Zumwalt and her sister ships carried weapon systems specifically designed for this scenario. Their 155mm advanced gun systems could fire 10 rounds per minute with GPS precision. Their close-in weapon systems tracked dozens of targets simultaneously. The first wave of Iranian boats came screaming in at 50 knots. Small radar signatures, difficult targets, but not invisible. 43 boats entered the engagement zone. 7 escaped. The water turned into a graveyard of burning hulls and floating debris. Iranian naval doctrine, refined over decades, failed in 12 minutes of actual combat. If you were commanding Iran's forces, what would your next move be? Fall back and regroup or continue pressing attacks? Drop your strategy in the comments. Tehran shifted tactics. If conventional forces couldn't stop the Americans, asymmetric methods would make them bleed. Revolutionary Guard units melted into civilian populations. Ambush positions established on roads leading inland. IED factories activated. The fight became ugly. American forces pushing towards strategic objectives encountered resistance at every village. Snipers in minarets. Anti-tank missiles fired from apartment windows. Suicide bombers at checkpoints. The clean, surgical war transformed into something grinding and personal. Day 3 brought the first significant American casualties. A convoy near the town of Manab drove into a coordinated ambush. RPGs disabled the lead and rear vehicles. Machine gun fire raked the trapped column. 17 soldiers killed, 31 wounded. The deadliest single engagement of the conflict. Back home, cable news ran the footage on endless loop. The images shifted public perception. Burning vehicles. Flag-draped coffins returning to Dover Air Force Base. Grieving families. War's reality punctured the narrative of technological dominance. Meanwhile, Iran activated its regional network. In Iraq, Kataib Hezbollah launched rockets at American positions in the Green Zone. In Syria, Iranian proxies shelled bases housing U.S. advisors. In Yemen, Houthi forces fired ballistic missiles at Saudi Arabia and the UAE. In Lebanon, Hezbollah mobilized 45,000 fighters and announced readiness to open a northern front against Israel. The regional conflagration that strategists had warned about for years was igniting. Oil prices reacted immediately. Brent crude surged past $150 per barrel. Gas stations across America saw lines for the first time since the 1970s. Global shipping companies suspended transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Supply chains that depended on Middle Eastern energy faced disruption. Your engagement tells us what topics matter to you. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our analysis of these critical events. Day 5 marked a turning point. American forces secured their primary objectives along the coast. Air supremacy remained total. Naval dominance absolute. But the political costs were mounting faster than military gains. Diplomatic channels, never fully closed, began carrying serious proposals. Oman hosted back-channel discussions. The Swiss conveyed messages. China offered to mediate, motivated by self-interest in maintaining oil flows. Russia proposed a UN framework that neither side fully rejected. The outline of a settlement emerged. Iran would accept international inspectors at all nuclear facilities. They would release the seized tanker and its crew. They would restrain proxy forces across the region. America would withdraw combat forces from Iranian territory. They would lift certain sanctions. They would provide guarantees against regime change operations. Neither side got everything. Both sides avoided total disaster. On day 10 at 6 a.m. local time, the ceasefire took effect. The statistics told a story of devastating asymmetry. Iran lost an estimated 6,200 military personnel killed or wounded. 89 aircraft destroyed. 143 naval vessels sunk or disabled. Air defense capability reduced by 73%. Nuclear program set back by at least a decade. American losses totaled 127 killed and 489 wounded. 4 aircraft lost to enemy action. 2 helicopters crashed in operational accidents. 1 destroyer damaged, repairable. The economic costs spread globally. Oil price shocks shaved an estimated 0.8% from world GDP. Insurance rates for Persian Gulf shipping increased 400%. Regional reconstruction would require billions that no one wanted to pay. Was this outcome worth the cost? A necessary demonstration of power or a strategic overreach? Share your assessment in the comments. The carriers began their withdrawal on day 12. Slowly. Deliberately. The message clear. We came. We demonstrated capability. We can return. Iran's government survived, but emerged weakened. The military they'd built over decades lay in ruins. The proxy networks they'd cultivated faced increased pressure. The nuclear ambitions that drove so much of their strategy were pushed further into the future. And the region? The Middle East absorbed another shock. Another war. Another round of destruction and displacement. The underlying tensions remained unresolved. The next crisis already visible on the horizon. This is the nature of modern conflict. Quick to ignite. Devastating in execution. Inconclusive in outcome. Technology allows destruction on an unprecedented scale, but cannot manufacture political solutions. The Persian Gulf today sits quiet, but the carriers remain within striking distance. The missile batteries are being rebuilt. The strategists are studying lessons. And somewhere, in a planning room or a bunker, the next chapter is being written. If you watched until the end, you understand why this analysis matters. The wars of tomorrow won't wait for us to be ready. They'll come when they come. And understanding them is the first step towards surviving them. Hit subscribe. Turn on the bell. Share this with someone who needs to see it. We'll keep bringing you the content that cuts through the noise. The tactics. The technology. The truth about what happens when nations clash. Stay sharp. Stay informed. And never forget what peace actually costs. The lave, also known word count, 2,489.